Hi everyone, my name is Baljeet Sandhu and I work at the Centre for Knowledge Equity, which is also an active member of the Lived Experience Leaders Movement, which is a UK-wide movement of lived experience leaders, Lex-led organisations, networks, community groups, coalitions, working across the 4 territories of the UK, uniting together to elevate our collective voice and leadership. It's a real honour to be invited to share a few words with you all today and also be a part of this inspiring community. I'm sorry we can't be together in person. One of the beauties of the Insight Awards in the past has been the way in which it allows so many inspiring people to come together in person, connect and celebrate one another. And what a different era we find ourselves in. I basically want to begin by grounding ourselves in this very moment, a year after the announcement of COVID outbreak in the UK, to basically acknowledge and embrace the personal and collective loss and suffering many of us have experienced and continue to experience. I myself have lost 4 loved ones to COVID, and I know there will be many of you in this space today who have also suffered many forms of loss during this unusual time and really challenging time for us all and our communities. But I also wanted to honour the community space created by the awesome Expert Citizens team who have created this space for us all today. Despite the challenges we continue to face, they've forged ahead, and what an incredible community of human beings will be coming together who are working tirelessly to support communities across England to navigate the uncertainty, the complexity and suffering that continues to impact so many of our communities. But this is an event, a gathering to celebrate inspiring people and organisations who are supporting communities facing social disadvantage and injustice. Social leaders, change makers, activists, activating their lived, learned and practiced expertise to create positive change for the communities they represent and share experiences with. Organisations and people that listen, that learn and share their learning and practices with others so that we can all do better together. To our colleagues without lived experience who are shifting their own work and practices to ensure that lived expertise and lived experience leadership is at the heart of all social purpose work now and into the future and beyond the grips of this pandemic. COVID has disrupted all of our lives, and this disruption is not landing equally, and neither are its continual aftershocks. Whilst the effect of the lockdown and the health and economic implications of the pandemic affect everyone, it continues to disproportionately affect those at the hard edges of injustice, those facing poverty, exclusion and discrimination. But it's also surfaced the pre-existing inequalities that many communities faced prior to the pandemic. It has exacerbated social injustices and trends that were already there: racial inequalities, rising hunger, poverty, homelessness, loneliness and isolation, an increase in mental health, distress, trauma and loss across many more communities. Class, race and regional inequities and inequalities are real. They continue to play out in damaging ways during this ongoing crisis. At the same time, government and the broader social sector is increasing its conversations around renewal, recovery in a post-COVID-19 world, or constantly talking about building back better. And following Danny Kruger MP's Levelling Up Our Communities report, it was noted to build back better, we need an economic and social model to replace the one that preceded the crisis, because before the crisis hit, our communities were in trouble. And today I wanted to highlight the urgent and pressing need to focus on the vital role that lived experience leadership must play in this debate and all future efforts to create and sustain efforts that will truly change society for the better as we try to walk out the grips of this pandemic. The status quo won't do. If we've always done what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. The last year has not only highlighted increasing inequalities, it's also shone a light and a spotlight on our governing systems, our social care programmes and the mainstream social sector to expose how they are falling short. As the social sector is busy designing strategies to lead us out of lockdown from the top down, our communities are busy on the front line responding to the crisis. Currently, many well-intentioned efforts and solutions actually don't address the root causes of injustice or the growing health and economic crisis that we're facing. They miss what they do is they can often miss the point that positive outcomes for many communities are deeply intertwined and connected with distinct social, structural and cultural stresses and inequities. That treating communities as homogenous one group approach and defining them solely by their collective struggles and injuries will no longer do. This approach is at best uninspiring and in some cases harmful. We do not need a tokenistic approach to community engagement, co-production or social action. The pandemic has shown us more than ever the power of local communities to act whilst many with power were paralysed by the unfolding events of the pandemic. And what we need now more than ever is to support the work of activists, change makers, social leaders working in the heart of their communities who have a deep-rooted understanding of the issues, challenges and problems that their communities face. Not simply leaders who can analyse data, negotiate around power tables or research problems that civil society face. And all of that is very important, but our society demands the leadership of people who have a richer and deeper understanding of the problems their communities are facing and have the means, resource and agency to craft solutions to those problems. Over the last several months and through the support approach of our centre, I've had the absolute honour of working with incredible community leaders and change makers activating their lived experiences for change. People with direct first-hand experiences of the social issues and injustices they are addressing in their social purpose work. They are service designers, activists, artists, entrepreneurs, innovators, policy strategists, activating and integrating their lived, learned and practice expertise to pivot, to innovate and repurpose their work to address the challenges of the pandemic and its impact on the communities that they represent and serve. Change makers who urgently need resource to scale their work to meet the ongoing needs of their communities. Often, these change makers are systemically stereotyped, feared or even dismissed and marginalised, often found to be a risky bet. But it's time to urgently move out of that mindset to elevate the work of lived experience leaders and exactly what the Insight Awards seek to do. Over the last several years, I've been working closely with the National Lottery Community Fund to co-design the Leaders with Lived Experience Fund, a fund that embraces and recognises the value, power and ingenuity embedded in communities with direct first-hand experience of the social issues or injustices they're tackling. During the pandemic, our centre has also supported the design of several funds led by and for leaders with experience. The Resourcing Racial Justice Fund and the Phoenix Fund, funds designed by and for Black and Brown leaders to fund organisations supporting their communities. The Ensign COVID-19 Fund, designed by and for people with lived experience of mental health and distress and trauma, to fund organisations supporting their communities. The Challenge and Change Fund, designed by and for young activists to resource the work of young people addressing intersectional injustices faced by young people across the UK, from young people with lived experience of the care system, the criminal justice system, immigration system, and much, much more. And also supporting Comic Relief's Inclusive Recovery Fund, providing social investment for social entrepreneurs during COVID and prioritising disabled leaders and leaders coming from communities of colour. The work has been humbling, inspiring and uplifting. The sophisticated simplicity and innovative approaches being crafted and spearheaded by communities with very little resource is nothing less than inspiring. Witnessing hundreds and hundreds of community organisations who are activating their lived experience with their practice experience to address the needs of their communities despite the most harshest, uncertain and unstable situations. At the same time, our centre has been working with experienced and senior leaders from across the UK to design and develop free leadership programmes for lived experience leaders. Active leaders from across the Lex movement coming together to support and elevate the leadership capacity of our community of leaders working tirelessly on the front line. including an incredible programme for lived experience leaders in the criminal justice system, which expert citizens were a part of, that has provided over 100 lived experience leaders with leadership training and help to elevate the work of the Lex CGS network, which is now made up of over 140 lived experience leaders working across England to unite and raise their collective voice, power, and share resources and wisdom to elevate their local efforts. I thought I would share some of my takeaways from that work and all the other initiatives our centre has been involved in over the last several months. Lived experience leaders have the experience, the relationships and knowledge that is essential for developing solutions to address needs of their communities. Their lived expertise brings a sophisticated simplicity to complex issues faced by their communities, and also a deep-rooted understanding of the root causes of these issues. They have a deep connection to the communities they represent and serve, and often have an ignored understanding of the cultural, structural, and systemic challenges their communities face. They have the ability to recognise and leverage the assets and human potential within their communities that is often overlooked or misunderstood. They embrace the power of human dignity, love, respect, and connection needed to support their communities. And they also strive to ensure that everyone feels that they have agency, a person's belief that they can shape their own future, relationships, their environment, as well as their community. A tenacity and courage and a sense of possibility, no matter how challenging things are right now, that they can get better if we invest in the people we represent and serve, regardless of what the odds are stacked against them. They lead with a deep-rooted humanity. Competition and making money is not the way to lead change. A deep-rooted understanding that we must unite as people and organisations to see our work scale, and the desire to share our work across other local communities. And it's together that these approaches can form the foundation for achieving transformational change we urgently need. But let's not get caught up in language here. There's been a clear co-option of words such as grassroots organisations, service user involvement, lived experience, and also even now the term lived experience leadership. The single simple thing that we need to understand is that human history has shown us that people at the hard edge of social injustice have always been here. The notion of lived experience in the social good ecosystem was founded by our forefathers and our foremothers in the disabilities rights movement. This work had been progressed significantly by our colleagues, brothers and sisters in the mental health space. This concept and notion of lived experience is not new. And also human history and the power of lived experience leadership, the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement spearheaded by women, Refuge, the first safe house for domestic violence survivors around the world, founded by a survivor of domestic violence. Alcohol's Anonymous, created and crafted over 100 years ago by 5 people with lived experience of of alcohol addiction in the Christian church. But today, there are lived experience leaders crafting solutions, services, products, activities, and much more to improve the lives of the people they share those experiences with. People like you and people that will be sharing the stage today, and people who we will be celebrating together. People with lived experience are more than just our stories or case studies. Storytelling is a powerful way to use lived experience for change, and the medium of art is a powerful medium to do that, as you will wonderfully and beautifully witness from the work of the incredible Rico Flo and Lady Unchained today, 2 exceptional Lex artists who I've been inspired by, who have inspired my world and my heart because of my own lived experiences. But we're service designers, we're researchers, we're activists, and much more. And the mantra of the Lex movement is that we have always been here, we are here now, and we will always be here. But another reason that the Lex movement has come together is our shared concern that it can't be as hard for us, for our younger generations, as it was for us. To be heard, to be valued, and to have our ideas and initiatives funded. We also need to learn from our young Lex leaders, many of whom are working on intersectional issues, innovating in ways that cannot be ignored, with a fearless energy and dynamism in a fast evolving world. But to innovate, we also need to learn from the past to bring it to the future. We need to start to also come together because of the pace of what is happening around us, to unite and have an intergenerational approach so that young lived experience leaders can unite with us, so that we can also build community with humility. And as one incredible senior lived experience leader, Anne Beale, who was one of the co-founders of Ensign, said, "We are all like sardines, passionate about supporting our local communities swimming along. But imagine if all lived experience leaders united and started to swim in the ocean together." It changes the tide of change. And there are many allies within lived experience across sectors and industries ready to work alongside together. And we welcome that. And we also welcome our allies who don't have lived experience, who also want to work alongside us. It's only then that we can re-engineer the way that we operate as a social sector, by working together equitably and meaningfully. So when the government and the sector talk about levelling up, and the levelling up agenda, we must shout loud and proud from our collective wisdom. We cannot level up until we level down, until we start to understand that there is vital knowledge and wisdom within and across our communities that can no longer be ignored. But we can no longer expect communities on the hard edges of social injustice with lived expertise to be change makers for free, whilst technical expertise continues to be resourced inequitably. This work requires humility, levelling down from the head to heart in order to level up. We need power shifts across all of our work, relationships and operations. And for that to happen, we need to shift perceptions, re-engineering self before systems, and the scales will come into equilibrium. We need to unite, move from competitiveness to collaboration. Now is the time to avoid inertia at all costs, to work together, and a deep-rooted understanding that social disadvantage is caused by social injustices, and we need to address systemic, cultural and structural barriers that continue to perpetuate the disadvantages that our communities continue to face. And now I know my time is up, so I wanted to end by saying I appreciate you all, to share my gratitude for everything that you do for your communities, that you represent and serve, and a huge congratulations to all the incredible souls who will be acknowledged today at the Insight Awards. But in this community, I want to also say that we're all winners, and I can't wait to continue to share community with you, and also share lots of space later on today. Thank you so much.